Hello and welcome to NB Drives. My name is Nishmanya and this is the 2024 Jeep Meridian. Essentially, it is a longer and slightly larger version of the Compass. It shares the same platform, but this is Jeep's entry into the full-size D-segment SUV market in India, which currently is priced anywhere between 30 and 50 lakh rupee ex-showroom in our market. So this is a very interesting proposition, especially for me personally, because I am considering an upgrade over my current car, the Tata Hexa, and if we are moving up segments, this sort of fits the bill as a 7-seater, as something that's a little capable doing long distances and tackling some of the rougher roads. So I'm very interested to see what it's like to drive, and let's get into the full review. Let's begin this review by looking at what's under the hood, and as you can tell from the footage, there aren't any hydraulic struts to help it up, and that feels like a bit of an omission for a car at this price range. But we can gloss over that fact and then you can move on to the engine, which is a 2-liter 4-cylinder multi-jet turbo diesel engine that makes 170 horsepower and 350 Newton meters of torque. Now, the model I was reviewing was the 2-wheel drive version with the 9-speed automatic, but you can get it with a 6-speed manual transmission as well. And there's a 4-wheel drive version which is there on this variant as well as the higher variant, but it costs a little more. So I also want to talk about the engine itself. I know we've seen it in a bunch of different cars, but this is Jeep's own 2-liter turbo diesel. And it's got a good amount of power and torque, even though on paper it might feel a little underpowered, as it makes only 170 horsepower and 350 Newton meters. But the Meridian's also lighter compared to other D-segment SUVs, so that is something you should note. However, as nice as this engine is, and it does feel quite torquey and gives you enough power in the way it's been tuned lower down. The main issue that I have with it is refinement, which as you press on, like now if I floor it, there is a fair amount of engine noise that filters into the cabin, and this does definitely take away a little bit from the refinement levels of the Meridian, which apart from this are pretty good, because the cabin itself has a good amount of noise deadening, so it really does cut out the outside ambient noises quite well, which is why the engine noise seems to be a little louder when you are inside, because the rest of the cockpit is so quiet. Also, you do feel a fair amount of the vibrations in the car itself, which again, for a premium SUV, you might expect it to be a little more refined, but I feel like that adds a little bit to the character of the Meridian. It feels a little more rugged and you feel a little more connected, so that is down to a personal preference, but in all fairness, a little bit more refinement wouldn't hurt. But I'll also say that the amount of performance on offer is very good, especially in this 2-wheel drive version, which is definitely more road biased because it is front-wheel drive. But what it does is that it removes about 100 kgs worth of weight over the 4-wheel drive version, and I drove that about a few days ago, and you can definitely feel it from behind the wheel, because this 2-wheel drive version feels a little lighter, feels a little quicker to accelerate, and it gives you a little bit more of an enthusiastic drive. However, if you want off-road capabilities, you really would want to pick the 4-wheel drive version, because from the little time I spent with it, I did get to take it off one of the trails around here, and it performed really well, like surprisingly well for a SUV of this construction, a monocoque. I wasn't sure if it would handle the rough stuff as well, but it felt very capable. So while the Meridian feels quite powerful with its engine and being relatively lightweight, one thing that it does miss out from some of the other bigger SUVs that it's going to go up against because of its price point is the seating position you get. Yes, you are higher up than some of the other mid-size SUVs out there, but again, something like say a Fortuner or even an MG Gloster, you do sit quite a ways down. It feels more car-like in here than it does SUV, like a big burly SUV. And depending on your tastes and preferences, you might actually prefer that, because this does give it a better driving dynamic overall, as it's got a lower center of gravity. You can push it into corners like I am now much more confidently, and it will carry the speed and feel far more confident than those bigger SUVs. But what you do lose out is the seating position, which you do want at this price point and with this sort of SUV. So I wish it rode a little bit higher, but I won't complain, because the driving dynamics for me definitely make up for it, and that is why I would probably want to pick the Meridian over some of its more capable ladder frame SUVs, which could probably take more of a bashing off-road, but their on-road dynamics aren't quite as nice. I really am very impressed with how the Meridian drives. Even at higher speeds out on the highway, it feels so stable. It feels like it's very at home, and it'll make for a very good highway cruiser. Ride quality of the Jeep Meridian is actually pretty good. It deals with all the smaller and medium-sized road imperfections pretty well. There's a slight underlying firmness to the ride quality of this Meridian, and it can definitely be felt in terms of the way it handles its bumps. It's not the most supple ride quality, but as you can see in this section where we're going over some bad roads, it does deal with them pretty well with very little filtering into the cabin in terms of harshness of the bumps, but it does move the car around a little bit, which is where the slight firmness can be felt. Here you can have a look at the turning radius of the Meridian, and despite this being a D segment SUV, it has a pretty decent turning circle, especially in this two-wheel drive variant. That does make it a little easier to maneuver around town compared to something larger like the Fortuner. Let's quickly talk about the design of the 2024 Jeep Meridian. Now, up front, the first thing that you're going to notice is the 7-slot grille, which is very traditionally Jeep, and it looks quite nice in person, slightly different from the one you see on the Compass. Of course, the Jeep lettering is right there in the center of the hood. These headlights, they're quite similar in shape and profile to the ones you see on the Compass, and they have a LED daytime running light here up top. What is slightly different here is the bumper. It's a fairly large bumper. They've reprofiled it, made it look a little more chunky, and I like this fog light housing insert out here. It is larger than the one you see on the Compass and just makes the front end look a little bigger. Now, another thing you can see out here is the air dam, lower air dam, which has this cool pattern to it. I think it adds a little bit of character to the front end. And on this specific variant, you have a chrome lip here on the front splitter area, which I think with all the other chrome accents looks quite nice. It's tastefully done. Another thing I really like on the Meridian, like with the Compass, is this sculpted hood. And there's this slight power bulge out here in the middle. So I think all in all, it looks really smart. Here on the side of the Meridian is where you can really tell it apart from the Compass that it is derived from. First up, there is the longer wheelbase, which is visually very noticeable. Second, there is this door, which is much longer, the rear door. and it's got a much wider opening, about 80 degrees, which improves ingress and egress. Then of course there's the rear overhang and this sculpted bumper that makes it look quite different, and all this culminates in a fairly upright rear end, which I think gives it a more boxy and slightly larger look than the Compass. And honestly, it looks a whole lot more like the Grand Cherokee, that is far more expensive than it does the Compass, which in my books is a very good thing because they do charge quite a hefty premium for the Meridian. Other things that you can see here on the side, there are new design alloy wheels in dual tone diamond cut finish. I really like how they look. They look quite smart and premium. And if you notice this chrome lining that goes around the window on the top, it is very similar to how the design ends on the Compass, which I think is a nice tie-in for the two SUVs. You also get roof rails with chrome accents on this variant. They are functional roof rails, so that does add a little bit to the rugged aesthetic of the Meridian. At the rear, the Jeep Meridian has a fairly upright tailgate. It makes it look far more boxy than the Compass, and I think that really suits the Meridian, especially in its side profile. It looks longer and more fitting of a D segment SUV. Now Jeep has done a few things to make this less boring and flat. So there are these nice creases that run along the lower part of the tail light, even here on the tailgate. They have tried to mold it and give it some character. I think it looks quite nice. Down here you get a fairly chunky bumper. There's a chrome strip between the two reflectors, gives it a nice premium look. And there is a 4 skid plate down here finished in silver. It's not real metal, but it does look the part. Don't think it's gonna save your undercarriage if you go off-roading. Now, another thing that I really like are these tail lights. They're really slim and very sleek looking compared to, say, the Compass. And again, I hark back to the point that it looks very much like the more premium Grand Cherokee with how they're laid out. And I think that's a very good thing, especially because of the price point of this SUV. Now, you also get a nice integrated spoiler out here, which looks quite athletic and definitely suits the Meridian's look. And there's a shark fin antenna up there. On the inside, the Jeep Meridian has a very similar design layout to that of the Compass, be it the layered dashboard design or the way the touchscreen infotainment system is a freestanding unit. It looks quite smart in how it's executed. There isn't a whole lot that differentiates this from the Compass though in terms of looks, so that might be a little divisive for some, but you do get all the nice bits from there. So things that I really like, there's a soft touch dash up top. There is a leather insert out here that's also got padding, feels very premium. I like this silver accent that runs around the AC vents and then down here as well. Looks very smart. And you get soft touch plastic here up top on the door cards as well. More leather lining on the door cards, padded leather out here in the center console, silver accents, and more leather out here. So all in all, it still feels very plush and very premium. Now, while we are talking about things that are nice and premium, we should talk about the infotainment system. It's a 10.1 inch unit, which is very responsive, high resolution, good to use. You can see if you go into the navigation, which you can do from the middle here or from that home screen, very quick. It feels almost like a smartphone in how it works. You have your AC controls in here, which you can do by the screen. Raise lower temperature, increase fan speed, turn it off, turn it on, sync. But the good point out here is the fact that it also has physical switches for this down here, which I really like. You have your climate switches down here, your AC on off, you have a dial for your fan speed, which I absolutely love. And I wish more car makers would leave it, because earlier on the day when I was on the move, it was very easy to just reach down and change settings as and when I wanted to. Other things you have out here, of course, there's Android Auto. It's wireless, and so far today it's worked pretty well for me. Quite responsive again. You have all the different things even here on the map. You can see it's nice and quick to respond. I really like this infotainment system. It's been quite snappy to use, which you can't say about a lot of infotainment systems. They look good sometimes but are a little sluggish. This one is not that way. Other things you get your surround view camera in your vehicle settings down there, and you get your 360 view. You can change your angles down here. It's quite detailed, nice resolution it has to it, but in some of the camera angles I wish it was a little more high resolution. But one thing you can't fault this for is its latency. It is almost running real time in terms of the feedback you get, so you don't have to worry about whether you have positioned the car correctly or not, because sometimes when you are parking with these 360-degree cameras, it can feel like there is a little bit of lag between what the screen sees and what you see, and you then tend to not trust it then. So this is a very good camera system. Quite pleased with it. And lastly, you have your different settings in here for your seat, for your navigation, phone. You can even change your audio settings down here. Your fade, forward, rear, equalizer. You have surround sound, and this Alpine sound system is actually really nice. I have enjoyed all the music I've heard on it today. It's got a very nice and rich low end. The mids are quite present and whole. You feel quite punchy, and even the top end is not blown out like some audio systems. So overall it sounds really nice. Other things that I like out here, steering wheel. This 3-spoke steering wheel feels really nice in the hand. I like its diameter, I like its thickness, and the leather on it also feels very premium. Now you can control things. These switches allow you to go through the instrument cluster. The digital instrument cluster is quite nice. It's very crisp, nice and detailed. You have your standard layout, which is simplified. It just has the speed and tachometer at the bottom. If you long press the OK button, you get a more traditional 2-dial layout with your RPM on the left and your speed on the right. And apart from that, you also have other vehicle information system. You can go through your range, your real-time fuel efficiency figures, your engine, coolant, transmission temperatures, even your battery voltage. Your tire pressure monitor is also here. You get your DEF fluid levels in here as well. You also get your distance to empty. Then if you go down, you have a trip display that will show you your trip A, trip B, how long the car's been running, how many kilometers you've done. There's media, and then there's a section for messages that allows you to essentially see any error messages or any updates if there are for the car. You'll get them here. Though some of the things you get on the 4-wheel drive version, like the power and torque and the angle of the car, those displays are not there on this 2-wheel drive version, so do note that. I'll also talk about the amount of storage you have. It's quite good. You have large door bins that can take a liter bottle, at least 2 of them, which is quite nice. 2 cup holders down here. There are also 2 slots to hold your phone just in this area. There's a wireless charger up front out there. There's a type A and a type C USB port there. There's an adjustable armrest here, which is quite nice, and it's quite deep. And you have a big glove box down here as well, which can take all your important documents. The only thing I wish this car had over what it does right now is some ambient lighting. It has none of that, and for a car of this price, I really think it should. And while I'm here, I'll also make a mention of the sunroof, the panoramic sunroof. It is quite nice and large, and definitely lets a lot of light into this cabin, which makes it feel even more airy than it currently is. And that helps with this, black and dark brown color scheme. So I appreciate the sunroof. Now, before I move to the rear, I'll also make a mention of these front seats. They are both 10-way electronically adjustable. This one on the driver side has 2 memory functions as well, and it's really comfortable. I love the base. It provides a lot of under thigh support. You can even increase it by putting the front seat, inclining it on the front end. The bolstering is also quite nice. It strikes a good balance between holding you in and giving you comfort. And the seat cushioning itself is also quite soft, which is nice for the longer drives that you're gonna be on. And lumbar support adjustment, those kind of things make it a very comfortable place to be. Another thing that I really like is the ventilated seat function, which I think most cars in this price point should have, even though some don't. And it's got 3 ventilation modes. The highest is very useful in our hot summers, because getting into the car, the first thing you feel on a hot day is how hot the seats get, and this really helps get rid of all that warmth very quickly. Here in the back there is a decent amount of room on offer, though it's not quite as large as I would have expected, considering this is longer wheelbase than the Compass, and it's going up against some truly spacious D segment cars. Now this seat is set to my driving position. I'm 6 foot tall, and I have about a little over an inch and a half of knee room. Headroom is also a little on the tight side. It's about an inch. It doesn't feel too tight because these seats are very nicely reclined, and this is its most reclined position. This is it upright, but in this setting my head is fairly comfortable. Like, I don't think I'm gonna hit the roof on a hard speed breaker. The cushion itself on the seat is a little on the firm side, but I do like how the base comes out of fairways, so you have very good under thigh support. The seat back cushion is also pretty decent. You get an adjustable headrest, and you get a very conveniently positioned armrest, which I really like the height of. My hand falls very naturally on it, and all in all you get a pretty comfortable position. And when you open the panoramic sunroof, you get a very nice and airy feel inside the cabin, which is quite nice. And you can really there is space under the seat for me to tuck in and put my feet under, give me a little more space, and I can stretch out and relax. I have seen with slightly shorter drivers, someone who's around 5'8", if this seat is set to their position, I have about 3 inches of knee room, which is much better, and it feels more spacious. And the cabin's not very wide, so sitting someone in the center is gonna be a little bit of a squeeze, just because of overall width. But the floor isn't too deep, though the footwell does come up a little bit in the middle, so the middle passenger will eat into both sides. So the middle seat's most likely only for short distances or city commutes. You wouldn't want to be 3 in the back here for too long. I'll also mention you do get ISOFIX child seat mounting points on the outer seats, and a lap seat belt for the middle, and 3-point seat belts on the outer seats. Now, you wouldn't really ever find me going into the back row of a 3-row SUV. I'll always try to take the driver's seat when I can. I'm just doing this for demonstration's sake, and I know this is a very tight third row. So you have a one-touch tumble function for this middle row, and the door opens quite a ways wide, which is very easy to make your ingress and egress manageable. I'll just shut the door real quick and pull the seat up, and I'm sure that you can see there is essentially no space for me back here. I am 6 feet tall, but there's no knee room, about no space for me to keep my feet extended out as well. I can recline the seat a little bit, which makes my head touch the pillar back here, so an upright seating position slightly better for me. Here my head's not really hitting the roof as much, but this is a place that is best suited for kids. I would not put anyone really tall back here, or just in case of an emergency. Though Jeep has given you a air conditioning system back here. This is a condenser unit, so it'll work quite effectively. It's not just a fan. And you've got two neatly positioned vents up here. You've also got a cup holder here, but again, I don't think anyone will really spend any real distances in this third row. It's only for emergencies. So I'm getting out of here. Now, the Meridian does feature an electronic tailgate, which is a nice feature to have, and you can access it just by pressing that button down there. And once it's up, you can see there's a fair amount of space on offer. There's plenty of cargo space with the rear seats folded down. You can easily fit a couple of large suitcases and carry-on luggage, but with the third row in place, there is still a reasonable amount of space on offer compared to what a lot of other SUVs do. You can still get some smaller cabin baggage size suitcases, 2 of them, and maybe a soft bag in here, but not much else. But that's still pretty good for most SUVs of this size. And you also get additional storage under the floor, as well as your toolkit. It's quite nice. And another thing I like here in the tailgate are these puddle lamps. They really help you look around in the boot in case you've left anything at night. And in order to close the tailgate, all you have to do, there's a button down here. You just have to press it and it'll shut. Oof, now delivering a verdict on this, that's going to be a little tough, as there are a few things that I like about the Meridian and there are a few things I wish it came with. Starting with the things I like, it's the design. I think it looks really smart, it looks upmarket. I know the similarities with the smaller Compass, but Jeep has done enough to differentiate the two models, especially if you look at it from the side or from behind, which is more than can be said for other cars that have been enlarged into 3-row versions of smaller SUVs. Just look at the Harrier and Safari, they look rather similar. And the next big thing is the interior. I think it looks really smart, it's well laid out, it feels solidly put together, and it's got pretty much all the features that you would want from a SUV at this price range. Now that said, there are a few things that I wish Jeep had added to it. First of all is a slight bump in the power and performance figures from the 2-liter turbo diesel, as at 170 horsepower it is essentially the same as what the Compass makes, and that is a smaller and lighter SUV, so the performance figures are better out there. The next thing is some of the safety features that you could look at, as this car doesn't have any ADAS, or full form is Advanced Driver's Assistance System features, which I feel is a big miss considering now cheaper cars and SUVs do offer these things, and something like a blind spot monitor would really help you out, especially driving a larger car. That said, there are updates coming to the Meridian later in this year. Jeep has confirmed that, and I presume a lot of these shortcomings will be addressed with that update. I'm not sure what that'll do to the pricing, but again, now on the subject of pricing, I admit it is slightly priced on the higher side compared to what people were expecting when it was launched. I'm not talking about the base model, which is around 33.5 lakhs ex showroom, but as it gets higher up in the range, that price tag gets a little high. But for those people considering purchasing this, I would say keep in mind it's very common to see the Meridian on discounts, usually at discounts and benefits of around the 2.5 lakh mark. So do note that when making the purchase decision, it might actually come into your budget with those discounts. So keeping in mind the prices the Meridian actually trades for in our market, the SUV offers quite a strong value proposition. It's got the smart high-end looks, it's got the solid interior, and it has a very capable platform and powertrain to back all that up. And if you look at it, it compares very well in terms of the features it offers compared to its rivals, which include the Skoda Kodiaq, the MG Gloster, and the Toyota Fortuner, which it also undercuts in terms of its pricing at the top end. However, the few things that you should note are that the service network and sales network will never match something like Toyota, and that is something you should be mindful of and do your homework before you purchase a Jeep. Another thing is that if you need the largest car for the money, then it's worth looking at something like the Gloster or the Fortuner, as they have it beat in terms of sheer dimensions. However, on the whole, if you want something quirky, less mainstream, and that is fun to drive, I would highly recommend looking at the Meridian and at least taking a test drive of it.